I am Sylvia Haywood, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Our session today is titled Mastering Agile Business Analysis in a Rapidly Changing Environment. So before we dive in, I would like to take you through a few quick notes. We will have a question and answer session at the end, so please drop your questions in the chat box as we go, and we would attend to everything before the end of the session. This session is recorded, so for listeners who want to revisit, we would send an email to every one of us and also to the groups. We'll also be streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. In the meantime, if you are joining us for the first time, this is the Center for Business Analysis, and we are a professional certification body that specializes in providing data analytics, business analysis, and a wide range of short courses in SQL for data analytics, AI for data analytics, and HR for data analytics, among others. I would like to introduce our speaker for today, who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in our discussion. She is Sylvia De La Momo, and she is a pharmacist. She is currently the Senior Business Analyst at World Vision International, where she spearheads project management and continuous project improvement. She is a certified business analysis professional, a Scrum Master, and also hold Six Sigma Green Belt certifications. As she's a facilitator and a business analysis coach, she empowers teams to unlock their full potential, fostering environments of collaboration in innovation that yield tangible results. Without wasting much time, let's welcome Sylvia to take us through. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Sylvia to Sylvia. Anyway, thank you so much, and welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here and get this opportunity to share with you all. So just give me some few minutes. Let me share my screen. Just a moment, please. Okay. All right. So, good day once again. As she said, my name is Sylvia Momo, and this afternoon I would like us to have a conversation with regards to mastering agile business analysis in a rapidly changing environment. Now, a lot of times businesses make decisions, they toe a certain line, they see a certain opportunity, or they see a problem, a need that they would like to solve. And due to that, a project is birthed, or an opportunity to probably improve a system, a product, or satisfy customers would come up, right? So when these projects come up, they usually exist in a certain context. And currently, there is so much happening in every industry, in every organization. If you look at AI alone, AI alone takes so much, right? AI is bringing up a lot of things. So I'm just trying to relate it to how quickly business environments or business context changes. Okay. Now, as BAs, we find ourselves in these environments with everyone looking up to us to make sure that the business does not derail the product vision, the organization's objectives and goals are not sidelined while chasing other things because of disruption, because of a lot of what do you call it, a lot of changes that are happening in the environment. So the business environment has changed, and what is causing that? One, changing customer expectations. Every customer who is using a product, who is interacting with an organization, expects a certain level of satisfaction. And once they have tasted that level, or once they have that expectation, they want to see it in their interaction with other businesses and even hold other businesses to higher benchmarks. Okay, then we also have rapid technology innovation or technological innovations. An example is the AI I just spoke about. Competitive pressure. One idea you are thinking about is somebody's product they are launching tomorrow. One thing that you drop, when you drop the ball, somebody has picked it up. And so there's a lot of competition in the environment and also continuous regulatory changes. So when you are in a very or a highly regulated profession, industry environment, you see that from time to time, changes come up and your products can be affected. The customer experience would therefore be affected. And also shorter product delivery cycles. It's all got to do with timelines because we need this product, we need it at a certain quality, but we don't have time to, or we don't have the leisure of time to be doing try and error, to be sitting down on the idea and trying to perfect it before we even move to production or development. So Agile isn't just about delivering fast. When we think about Agile, we are thinking about quicker business value. And so sometimes people just think about the faster delivery, but the main thing that Agile hinges on is value quickly, right? So we want faster delivery, but with value and continuously as well. So when we think about business analysis in the traditional sense or in a traditional environment or in a predictive environment, we are looking at it from the angle of the certainty, right? So we want to know what the need is. We want to put down every requirement. We want to know, yes, all our stakeholders want to stick with the project vision, but there isn't much room for changes like Agile gives, okay? So for Agile, we have this mindset that change is inevitable. Yes, and we work in such a way to accommodate the change that we are expecting. So I don't know how many of us probably have worked in certain environments where we are thinking about a certain solution that we are trying to build, and by the time you were done collecting all your information, certain things have already changed. So before you even get a sign off, right, in the traditional environment, before you get a sign off, things have already started picking up, and you would realize that you probably, if you want to bring out a product that will bring value, then you may have to start the process all over again. So what is Agile business analysis? We are looking at it from the angle of constantly or continuously discovering business needs. We want to interact with our stakeholders. We want to spearhead conversations that would reveal the true needs, okay? The true business needs, whether it's a problem or it's an opportunity. Now, we are also considering prioritizing value. Yes, we want to bring out a product, but or we want to change how we work. But are we changing it for changing sake? The main reason why we are even considering this is to provide value. So we would prioritize value. That is in agile business analysis. Then the delivery. Okay. We will coordinate with stakeholders. So we as business analysts, when we are working as agile BAs or in an agile environment, we want to make sure that we are in constant collaboration and communication with our stakeholders. Okay, so we are delivering incrementally. We are working on one part of the solution, which has been prioritized because we know that working on that would give us a certain value at a level, and then we keep adding on other portions or features of this product we are building. And by doing so, we are delivering incrementally. Then we learn through feedback. How do we get feedback if we are not constantly collaborating and communicating with our stakeholders? So once we are ensuring constant communication and collaboration with stakeholders, we are gathering those pieces of information, feedback that we get from them, and using that to constantly prioritize and give our stakeholders value. Then we adapt. In it all, we are looking at it from the angle of there will be changes, or information can come up that would require us to look at this process or parts of this process again. Are we ready to change according to the information we have received, or the environmental changes, or the context that we are working in? So as BAs, it's not just about documenting everything upfront where we want all information, but it's our job to maximize business value. All right. So a traditional BA and an agile BA. So a traditional BA would want to gather all their requirements at once. So we'll gather our stakeholders, we'll collect all the information. We want everything collected, right? So we do all that at once. But for an agile BA, the requirements evolve. Remember, prioritize. Remember, what do you call it? Delivery. So as we are collaborating and prioritizing, requirements can evolve based on our concept of adapting if there are changes. Okay. And then a traditional BA is, or the traditional way of doing business analysis would look at documentation heavily. So everything must be documented and put in one place, templates and what do you call it? Documents that must be produced have to be done. But when it comes to agile, we just need enough information to move forward. We are not at all looking at putting down heavy documentation. No, we just need enough information to move forward. And when it comes to traditional BA, the project success is based on scope. Remember, we are trying to gather all our requirements upfront or document upfront, meaning our project success will be dependent on how well we have documented requirements from all kinds of stakeholders, right? So the scope or the spans or the borders within which our solution would exist it shows how well we are working. But when it comes to agile, the focus is customer value, right? So do we have enough information to tell us what has been prioritized to help us to create value for our stakeholders? Now, change is controlled in a traditional BA. By the time you go to change control process and everything that you need to trigger before you can get a change, you would know that this is a very strict, heavily documented area. And then when it comes to the agile, change is welcome. Adapt. We are looking at how we can work better in our environment, so change is welcome. And then for traditional, we deliver once. We gather all our documentation, our requirements and information, and then we now go into development to do so. Now, Agile looks at continuous delivery. So we deliver in bits and pieces and incrementally. All right, so for BAs, then we don't have to resist change. We have to manage it through a mindset. Okay. So the BA's role in, excuse me, the BA's role in Agile teams, for the BA, you are kind of in the middle between product owners who usually look at the product vision, market strategy, and all that, then developers who are actually going to create the solution, and also the testers who are constantly working to see whether what we are producing would actually meet our customer needs as well. So the BA will facilitate conversations, deep conversations, aimed at ensuring we are on track when it comes to delivering customer values. You remove ambiguity. Conversations around pieces of information in requirements that does not speak to the value, they are addressed by the business analyst. So we deprioritize requirements that are not so clear or that are not matured and that needs more information. Now, the BA would also bridge the business and technology once we have as BAs enough. You don't need to be technical per se, but you just need enough understanding of that technology, and also you stand at a place of understanding what the business really needs. In this place, you're able to tell what would benefit this organization should we go ahead with this particular technology or this idea that we have come up with. Now, BAs also support product owners. So we are saying that product owners look at this, are in this environment to try and match the product vision with the organization's vision. So BAs also work at that intersection where we are also supporting the product owners with aligning, validating these requirements to make sure that we are delivering what our customers want or what the business wants. BAs also encourage collaboration. Yes, one thing that is very important here is that if you are unable to collaborate, if you're unable to, get your stakeholders to commit to ensuring your project or the work that you are doing is probably a priority to them as well. So you get their commitment and you hold good conversations with them and you make them understand the importance of what you are trying to achieve. When BAs encourage such collaboration, we're able to move forward quickly because we know that in agile environments, delivery that is done quickly and focusing on value is what we encourage. And so another thing the BA will do is to ensure the business value remains the priority. And that is top of the list. The business value would remain a priority. So it's not like business analysis would drag agile teams. They actually need business analysis, but they need it to be done differently, where we are focusing on the value, delivering quickly, and also ensuring collaboration and continuous prioritization. Okay. So for agile planning and continuous delivery, we think about it from the iterative planning stages and also continuous feedback, incremental delivery, and then adaptive decision making. So when you are planning, you plan to ensure that you are looking at how quickly you can change or adapt. Okay, you have at the back of your mind that adapting is important in agile if we are to deliver value to our stakeholders. And then we build. So once we have planned, we have all the information, we go ahead and build. Now, when we are building, what happens is that we want to build based on all the information we have gathered that speaks to value. So that is when an organization will release a product that would help them to establish what value that product brings to stakeholders. Okay, so the major thing is done, and then with time we add on other things. Your feedback from our stakeholders. So you know that sometimes when you're using products, there are these surveys that come, and then they will be asking you how you fared with this or that. And sometimes some organizations even go to the extent of actually calling. There's still a certain part of that product in development, okay? And so we do that, we get feedback, and then we improve. So the cycle will continue, and it will keep improving the product. So every iteration will teach us something, because in the iteration, after planning has been done, during building and delivery, we come back for feedback. And so we go back to improve or to make better decisions with the requirements that we have. So how are requirements usually presented in agile environments? They are usually presented in a form of user stories. So these are customer needs, right, that have been captured in such a way to tell us what the business value is. So it's just probably one thing, okay? It should be small enough such that we don't need anyone to come and explain to us. When we read it, we must understand everything that it entails. So in some quarters, they will say it's atomic, right? We don't need another document. We don't need another sentence to explain to us what that user story is. Now, what you must concentrate on is the who. So in a user story, we look at the role. Who is asking for this particular requirement? The next thing is we look at the feature. Okay, what feature? So what do we want to see, or what does the role want to see? So what? And then the next is the value. What value would I get, or would the role get, when that feature is done? So an example is for a mobile banking application. This customer or this role is a mobile banking customer, okay? And what feature do they want? The feature is to reset password. What would it do for them so that they can access their account without visiting a branch? You know that if you want to reset your password, if you are using any application and you want to reset your password, this customer feels, I don't need to walk up to a branch before I can do. So what I need this application to do for me, or the feature I need there, is the ability to reset my password. If you read a user story like this, you're able to tell without referencing any other material that this is what the customer wants, okay? So that's what we're talking about. So characteristics of a great user story, I've said some already. It must be independent. We don't need any explanation from a third party. It must be negotiable. So when we look at it and we think it does not meet the criteria, then we can adjust it. It must be valuable. Once we put down that user story, it is something that is adding to the total value of whatever product we are coming up with. It must be estimatable. We should be able to tell, like, this user story, if we are to implement it, how long, how much effort do we need? It must be small. If it is a user story that contains other things, okay, so like a measure of different features or different rules, that will cause confusion. So it must be small, a very small part of or a feature, as a very small part of the whole product, and it must be testable. At the end of the day, we should be able to test and see whether that particular user story has been implemented. Okay. So the story A on our left says customer should log in. This is very vague. There is no role, there is no value, and it is hard to test. How do you test customer should log in? All right. But the story B is saying as an online customer. So the who we spoke about specifically as an, or the role, yeah, as an online customer. The next thing is I want biometric login, the what or the feature, so that I can securely access my account faster. So that is the value of what this feature should give them. Now, if we look at this clearly, there's a clear rule, there's a feature, and the value as well. And we can estimate this and we can actually test it. Okay, so with some acceptance criteria and all that, we will be able to test this. Okay. So what is a backlog? And it's a list of all the things, just a list, right? Just a list of all the things that must be done. So when we think about it as a list, that is it. But if we want to look at it from the angle of bringing value in what we are building, we have to have it as a prioritized list of value. Okay, so this hierarchy would show you at the bottom, we have large epics that's information on whatever we are creating from various stakeholders. But these have not been refined. Okay, they are raw, they are merged. There is a lot of lists. Sometimes there's even misunderstanding as to what it is that this particular information is speaking to, what feature, what role, what benefit, we are unable to tell. So it is broad and not yet ready. Now, when we look at the next step, which is the future ideas, they are being looked at, refined a little. We removed a bit of waste from it, and we are having conversations around making it actually meet our project or product vision or value. Okay, then the last one is where we actually have a prioritized list. Okay, so high priority, it has those features of user stories that we've talked about. It is small, it's ready to implement, it is refined. So these are matured requirements that are put as stakeholders that we need, we can actually just implement. Okay, so when we are talking about backlogs, we are thinking about a list of value, and we only get that when we have refined, we have had better conversations, aligned, validated, and we are sure that at the hierarchy, whatever finds itself as at the top of the list is something that we know would bring us the value we are looking for. Okay, so there are different techniques that BAs use, and so when we want to adapt the traditional BA techniques, these techniques are not the problem, okay, but it is about how you use them during your implementation or in the environment you find yourself. So heavy documentation for traditional BA would come with documents like the BRD, but in Agile, we have user stories, small, atomic, independent, valuable, requirements that we can easily implement and assure if they are prioritized in our backlog, it is producing value. Then we have function specification, but in Agile, we have acceptance criteria that can help us test. Okay, and then in traditional BA, we have formal reviews. So we have to set up meetings and get our stakeholders where we review our requirements and get their sign-offs or get their opinions and changes. But in Agile, we collaborate daily. So in sprints, we meet, what did you do or what did you not do or what do we need to improve? These conversations make work faster. And then in traditional BA, requirements sign off, you have to go through all that to get your stakeholders to sign off before. But in Agile BA, it is continuous validation, continuous alignment through prioritization, through ensuring that the project vision value is what you look at. Then for traditional BA, we have detailed planning. In Agile, we have rolling wave planning. So we plan and we work, okay, in different iterations. So if we look at this, we are thinking about opening accounts online at a bank. And this is simply um, a conversation around how Agile would approach something like that. So in traditional approach, we now have to gather all our requirements. Sometimes we say, okay, this is a 6 month project, and then we'll have one big release. But in Agile, we go sprint by sprint. And in doing so, we are able to break the value down, or we break the task down. Okay. And for each sprint, it is value delivery. So we are not waiting 6 months for one big release, but we are doing it incrementally. So the first sprint may focus on basic registration. So how do I do registration? That feature. Okay. Then the sprint two would focus on identifying verification. So what identity verification should we do? Then the sprint three can be debit card request. This means at the time when sprint one is done, somebody can actually test like the online registration or basic registration already exists. Okay. Then we are adding on with security feature for identity registration. Then we are adding on that if you want a debit card, this is how you can request it. And then, okay, then in this time, we in sprint four, we want to add on notifications where you can get notifications on transactions and all that. So each sprint will deliver value while gathering customer feedback. So in doing so, we also go back to our customers to see what are some of the experience, what's the feedback, and that will help us. All right. So I have a question. You can think about it, and or you can write something in the comment section. Where does the business analyst add value in this process that we have just spoken about? Where do you think a BA would add value in this process? Okay. So you can think about that question. You can put something in the chat if you have some answers. But the key takeaways today is that by now, you should be able to write effective user stories.
It seems Sylvia has a network problem. So if you have any questions, let's put them in the chat section. If we have any questions, let's kindly put them in the chat section while we wait for her to join in quickly. Hello, Sylvia. Can you hear me? Yes, please. Your network went off, so you can kindly take over. Okay. Please, you can unmute now. Sorry. Are you sure?
Sylvia, can you hear me? Yes, so I was asking, can you
Yes,
confirm
please.
where you lost me?
Please hold on a
Okay,
minute.
I'm sharing my screen once more.
Uh, yes, please. I think we lost you at the question you were asking.
Oh, that's okay.
Where does business analyst add value in the
Okay, okay,
process?
okay. All right. So this was a question I asked for your reflection, and if you would like to put something in the chat. But I was just going through the key takeaways for today. By now, I'm thinking that with the discussion we've had, you should be able to write an effective user story or effective user stories. Your management of backlog has received some, what do you call it, understanding. And so you would be able to know how to prioritize your lists on a backlog and also facilitate conversations across agile teams. Then you can adapt traditional BA techniques to agile in the table we saw before and also deliver continuous value. So BAs, we are no longer looking at just documenting requirements, but helping to make better decisions. So I was just rounding off. And so I would just bring it back to you, Sylvia, for any questions and discussions.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Um, I would like to ask some few questions while we wait for the others in the chat box to ask their questions also. So my first question will be, so for business analysts who are transitioning from the traditional part, so waterfall background into a fast-paced agile environment, what is usually the hardest habit to break? How do you recommend they overcome it?
Okay, so usually the hardest, I think the hardest habit would be documentation, upfront documentation, right? So you would want to put everything together before you would move. Okay, so every information, like how we gather requirements. So you are gathering requirements, you are putting everything together before you could even think about any other thing in terms of development, okay, or communicating with your development team. And because maybe that has been what this traditional BA from, or a BA from a traditional background or waterfall background does frequently, it becomes difficult for them to shift from trying to perfect everything before development begins to ensuring prioritization of the requirement that will bring value. So shifting from what do you call it, perfecting everything to working in uncertainty, because then agile comes with uncertainties. Okay, you are trying to work and you are gathering information and also taking feedback and improving. So that shift becomes a bit difficult. So what I would advise is that you have to move from documenting mindset to facilitating shared understanding. Try and get a shared understanding of what really the business value is and start planning with the aim of creating value from the onset. Okay. Thank you, Sylvia.
Okay. So I think I have another question. So in an agile setup, we embrace change. So, however, how can a BA differentiate between healthy agile adaptation and destructive scope creep that could derail the project?
Okay. So, one thing when it comes to change, even though Agile is very adaptive and very open to change, one thing to bear in mind when change comes up is to ask yourself certain questions or try and answer certain questions. So these questions are around alignment. We have a product vision. We have a certain value we are looking for. Um, Whatever that change is must be assessed in the light of that particular product vision. The other thing is what what the change is bringing on, would it improve or would it add value to our customer or our business? And what are some of the trade-offs? What are the things that you have to consider if you take this change? So it's a bit of an impact analysis, right? If you look at these three questions or you think around these three questions and you think that, oh, it's something that still fits, but we have to look at where to position it, then that is actually agile. But once you are just taking on any change just because agile is adaptive, it would be scope creep because some of the things you'll be taking on would not be matching or would not be aligning, or you are not validating that according to your product vision or business value. So that's what I would say. The difference is impact analysis and running away from uncontrolled change. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you're saying we should be more impactful while being agile.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sylvia. We are going to open the mic for a few two questions and we can wrap up afterwards. So kindly raise your hands if you have questions and Sylvia is here to answer them. Okay, we have a question in the chat box. The question says, in the current trend of AI, how valuable is the business analyst field in the job market?
Yes. The question again, please.
In the current trend of AI, how valuable is the business analysis field in a job market?
Yes. So you see, I like this question and this kind of conversation because since the emergence of AI, there's been a lot of conversations around, oh, AI is going to replace business analysts, and I've seen some, right? It's kind of asking whether BAs are still valuable in this current trend of AI. And we are. We are because before any AI adoption, we must know the context. Okay. We must know the processes that will be affected. We must know how it will be affected and what is the impact of bringing on AI. Now, who better does this analysis than the business analyst? If you take a wrong process and optimize, no, not optimize, augment it with AI, you are just augmenting your failures. So before you adopt AI in any process, any thing that you are doing, we must have very deep conversations around what do we have now? Okay, what do we currently have? What do you want to see AI achieve for us? And what are the gaps that need to be closed before we bring the AI on board? If not, we'll just be magnifying our failures. And so BAs are needed now more than ever. They are needed now more than ever because if you want to serve our customers well, or we want to deliver value to our stakeholders, as BAs, we are doing the background work to ensure that the context, the change that is coming is being done well to optimize our opportunities and not our failures. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And do we have more questions? Okay. Since we don't have any questions in again, so as we wrap up today, I want to leave us. Okay, there's a question. She says, "What industries currently have the highest demand for BA?" Sylvia, please.
Okay, so the Global State of Business Analysis report was recently released, and the highest industry in that report was the IT. There was backing it closely was banking, and the next was healthcare. Those were the top three off the top of my head as I sit here. Those were the top three that I remember. I also remember government agencies were there. Remember that these are responses and information collected globally on business analysis career and everything that you need to know in 2026 about business analysis. So the top three was IT, banking, and then healthcare. All right.
Okay, okay. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final note. um, okay, let me quickly take this question and then we end the session. We wrap up today's session. So the question says, "What is your advice for entry level BA who is still finding their ways around this field, and how best can we stand out in all we do?"
Okay. So you are starting out in business analysis. One thing that I can recommend for you is the mindset. So be that person in the room that is always asking, how can things be done better? Or how can things be done differently? Okay, so you are not just in rooms observing and just following. The business analysis mindset of probing, of wanting to do things differently to deliver value. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that there are different levels of certifications that you can take. So depending on your number of years of experience, you can take the ECBA, the CCBA, or the CBAP. So for early career, then you should be between the ECBA and the CCBA. Now, when you get yourself into any certification prep course, you will learn the principles of business analysis. There is a way that interacting with the material, the coaches, and the whole what you call it, the whole process of getting certified would open your eyes about how business analysis is practiced in different industries, different areas, and also help you to understand the principles that business analysis is based on. So the first is the mindset. The second is try and get certified, where you would come to terms with the language. Okay, every profession has a language, and also the deepen your understanding of the mindset. Then the last thing is practice, practice, practice. Practice some things around soft skills. If you have the opportunity, if you are working and have the opportunity to facilitate a certain meeting or lead something, don't run away. Do it. If you have the opportunity to contribute to a certain document, even if it's not part of your work, do it. And follow other senior BAs who are sharing nuggets about the industry and its shape and all the things that are happening in that context as well. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you. As we wrap up today, I want to leave us with one final thought. In a world that changes by the minute, the most successful business analysts aren't the ones who stick strictly to the plan, but they are the ones who know how to master the pivot. So let's stay agile and be impactful as well. If you want to know more on how to be a BA and stay agile, we have our next cohort starting on the 29th of August. You can join us. We also have, and if you want to dive more deeper into data for analytics, especially in SQL, we have our upcoming cohort in SQL for data analytics on the 3rd of August. If you are also new in data analytics, you can join our next cohort for data analytics on the 3rd of October. So you become a pro in data analytics. You can join us by contacting us on 024 9200. I'm taking the number again, 024 or visit our website at the www.centerforanalytics.com. You can also walk into our office in person at East Legon, 17 Garden Road, that's near ANC Mall, for more information. Kindly visit our online platforms, that's Instagram, TikTok at CBA Ghana, to follow us, and follow us also on our LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube channel at Center for Business Analysis. Thank you to our speaker for today, Sylvia De La Momo, and to everyone for joining us today. My name is Sylvia Anta Haywood, and I was your host for today. Thank you all for joining, and have a great afternoon.